Hey everyone, what's up? Gleekon here and back again, bringing you another episode of Lore of Warcraft, and also here thanking you for tuning in. On the last episode yesterday, we posted our next installment of the classic walkthrough. We are very, very close to finishing Western Plaguelands with a completionist run as an Alliance character. We will revisit it over the weekend and see how that flavor feels with most of those quests as Horde. Also, we've been reading a Unofficial Warcraft movie script as well. We're going to read the penultimate part of that. We will finish this one probably tomorrow. And yeah, I can talk about it more on the long play. The next long play we do I've already kind of addressed the work schedule, and therefore the record schedule is a little bit truncated this week. So my apologies to that, but I will keep cranking them out as much as the hours in the day allow. Without further ado, let's pick up on the last thing that we did on this was there was a big reveal that Logosh, this human that was raised by orcs that has been throughout, was actually King Varian Rin that was sunk by the Burning Legion. And there are forces on both sides of this battle between the Alliance and the Horde that are being manipulated, a la the Burning Blade kind of story that we read. I don't remember. Maybe it was it wasn't Blood and Honor. It's one of the other previous novels we read, more from the Chris Metzen era, when he was writing the first few novels. I don't know that he specifically wrote it, but there was a story that was basically about the Searing Blade or Burning Blade or some faction like that that was working across sides to aid the cause of the Burning Legion by creating a war between the Alliance and the Horde. So this taps really strongly into that vibe. All right, so we look outside of the Theramore dungeon in the hallway. Cell door swings open. The two posted guards react when they see Varian and Jaina following Stormpike out. Sir, you can't take these. The first guard challenges Varian with the point of his sword. Varian effortlessly grabs his wrists and twists into a crippling arm lock, then fells him with a right hook. The second guard goes for his sword, but Stormpike is on him like a bulldog. He punches him in the codpiece. The guard winces in pain and sinks to his knees, bringing him to eye level with Stormpike, who finishes him off with a headbutt. Used to be a bouncer at a human bar before I enlisted. You learn a few tricks. Come on. Wait, this isn't all of us. Takes a moment for Stormpike to realize who he means. Please tell me you're joking. Inside the Theramore dungeon, Thrall's cell. Thrall, down on his knees in the moonlit darkness, gathering up small pieces of earth and straw from the dungeon floor. When he has enough, he cups it in his hands and mutters a shamanistic prayer under his breath. The dusty earth begins to glow. Thrall blows on his hands, and the glowing particles float upward toward the narrow barred window high above, carried on an unseen current. He watches as they drift the bars into the open air and gone. The cell door opens, and Varian, Jaina, and Stormpike enter. Proudmoore took the fleet. He's laying siege to Orgrimmar at dawn. A dark look comes over Thrall as he stands. He sails to his own destruction. Orgrimmar's defenses are far greater than he thinks. Can you stop it? I don't know. Perhaps. If my people can see me alive. We have to try, Colonel. Varian motions to the heavy iron chains and manacles securing Thrall to the cell wall. Stormpike looks uncertain. I must be going out of my bloody mind in my old age. Thrall holds his hands out before him, and with a blow from his sword, Stormpike cuts clean through the iron chain. Varian hands Thrall his mighty war mace. This belongs to you. Thrall takes the hammer and looks at Varian with great respect. Thank you. Outside of Theramore Keep in the night, Varian, Jaina, Thrall, and Stormpike emerge onto the street. At the sight of Thrall, many townsfolk busy cleaning up after the battle flee in panic. Thrall takes it in stride. This isn't the work of one man. What isn't? This war. Twisted as they are, I understand Proudmoore's reasons for wanting this, but I was at the council in Stormwind. Prester, Jonathan, Jess Tereth, they were all pushing Anduin down the same path. Prester wants to be queen. It's no secret at court, and everyone knows it save the king himself. Stormpike stops and looks at Varian gravely. Sire, your son has tried his best to rule in your absence, but there are too many who perceive him as weak. He
knows the Alliance can't go to war under a boy king with no experience of fighting one. He'd be forced to step aside. By law of succession, Prester would take the throne. Once she has it, she'll never give it up. That's why she sent Proudmoore here. She knew there could only be one outcome.
These people would plunge us all into war just to seize power.
With respect, my lady, I can see you haven't spent much time around politicians.
Marianne's face flushes with anger.
When I get back there, we need transport to Orgrimmar. We must get there before the dawn.
What about the Night Elves?
Their ships left before ours did, back to Teldrassil. But I know just the thing.
We follow Stormpike over to the Griffin Roost, where several of the winged beasts are nesting. To the Griffin Master,
Alliance business and commandeering these animals.
Stormpike mounts up. Varian looks apprehensive.
Is there no other way? You wouldn't be afraid of a little flying, would ye? Ah, don't be such a big girl's blouse. Statistically speaking, it's the safest way to travel.
As Stormpike's griffin spreads its wings with a loud caw, we look out on Mulgore at night. A land of vast, verdant grass plains and rolling hills, a place of outstanding, untouched natural beauty. As we pass over the land, we crest a hilltop to discover Thunder Bluff, a great elevated city built atop a sprawling network of towering mesas, interconnected by a series of rope bridges, animal skin huts, totemic statues, temples, and water wheels. We move in closer to one of the high mesas where we find Cairn seated at its edge, meditating, the great vista of Mulgore's rolling grasslands laid out before him. His eyes snap open, suddenly acutely aware of something. The air before him seems to be alive with dimly glowing particles carried toward him on the wind. Fascinated, he reaches out and grabs a handful of them out of the air. He looks at the glowing particles in his hand, growing dimmer by the moment like dying embers, but Cairn is able to divine the message within. His eyes widen, amazed. Thrall. Outside on the great sea at dawn, Proudmoore's flagship moves across the sea shrouded in fog. On the Lightbringer deck, Proudmoore paces anxiously at the flagship's bow. On the crow's nest, Lando! Proudmoore raises his spyglass to look out toward shore. From Proudmoore's POV, the beaches of Durotar come into view through the coastal fog, and just visible beyond, Orgrimmar.
All hands, general quarters.
The ship's deck bursts into activity as we pull out to reveal the great fleet of Alliance warships following the Lightbringer into battle, an awesome invasion force. Inside Orgrimmar, in the Valley of Strength, Orgrimmar's central plaza, Orcish wounded from the Theramore battle are laid out in the streets, attended to by overworked medics. Grommash walks among them, still fuming with anger. A horn is sounded, an alarm. On the Orgrimmar ramparts, Grommash charges up the steps to the top of the wall where Colonel Garthok looks urgently out toward the coast.
What is it? The Alliance fleet.
Grommash grabs Garthok's spyglass, points it out to sea. From Grommash's POV, the Alliance fleet is headed right for them. Grommash lowers the spyglass, jaw firm with resolve.
Bring them on, my lord. Double the wall guard. Ready the artillery. I want every orc who can carry a weapon assembled in full armor at the main gate in 5 minutes. This ends today.
Outside on the Great Sea on the Lightbringer deck, Proudmoore watches as the ship's heavy cannons are brought to bear on deck. Gun crews loading, adjusting elevation. An Alliance commander approaches to report.
Sir, our carriers are within range. Excellent. Let's start softening them up, shall we?
The commander nods to a signalman who signals the trailing fleet with a pair of semaphore flags. At the rear of the fleet, as we move along the fleet, we discover that not all the ships are traditional mast and sail vessels. To the rear there is a pair of steam-powered aircraft carriers of gnomish design. They are the RSS Turalian and RSS Prince Arthas. On the Prince Arthas flight deck, several gnomish attack aircraft are assembled on deck, ironclad twin-engine turboprops laden with bombs under the wings. A gnomish flight operations officer in a life vest and protective goggles directs a pair of bombers into launch position with hand paddles. The gnomish bomber pilots give a thumbs up. They catapult down the runway and take off toward Orgrimmar, and outside Orgrimmar, alive with activity as troops are mustered and artillerymen and archers move into position on the city walls. An orc spotter sees the gnomish bombers approaching.
Incoming!
Orcs scatter as the gnomish bombers fly over the city, engines droning and loose their bombs. Whistling through the air, they explode inside the city, flattening buildings.
Scramble the air cavalry!
Outside Duratar on the coastal waters on the Lightbringer deck, the Alliance flagship's now close enough for a clear view of the approaching beaches in Orgrimmar beyond.
Artillery, open fire!
Lightbringer's cannons open fire with a deafening boom, and on the Orgrimmar ramparts, cannon fire explodes into Orgrimmar's walls, showering rubble onto fleeing Orcish civilians below.
Return fire! And where's my air support?
As he bellows the order, a dark shadow passes overhead, accompanied by the flapping of great leathery wings. On the Lightbringer deck, Proudmoore watches with satisfaction as the Alliance cannon fire pummels Orgrimmar's walls.
I don't think they like it when the boot's on the other foot, eh?
Quite right, sir.
Incoming at 12 o'clock!
Proudmoore looks up to see dark shapes pushing through the clouds ahead, emerging to reveal wyverns. Great flying beasts saddled by Orcish riders, high explosives strapped to the wyverns' bellies. They emit blood-curdling screeches as they close on the Alliance fleet.
Target those beasts!
Alliance gun crews crank the elevation on their cannons and open fire on the incoming wyverns. One takes a direct hit and explodes. A second is winged and careens out of control, spiraling directly toward an Alliance carrier. Crewmen scatter and leap overboard as the bomb-strapped wyvern crashes into the deck and explodes like a kamikaze pilot. Proudmoore watches aghast as the crippled and burning carrier astern begins to sink beneath the waves.
So we didn't anticipate aerial bombardment. Perhaps we should... Full ahead. Get me on that beach.
At the Orgrimmar gates, an Orcish army marshals outside the main gates. Grommash patrols before them on his armored wolf mount, holding a blood-red war banner aloft as he addresses his troops.
Are any of you a coward? Does anyone among you fear death?
The assembled orcs reply with a defiant roar.
Are you going to let these human maggots destroy your homes? Make slaves of your women and children?
Another blood-curdling roar of defiance.
Then do as your blood commands you and fight! Victory or death!
Grommash raises his war banner and rides toward the beach, an entire army charging behind him. On the ramparts above, Orcish artillerymen load oil-soaked boulders into ballistas. They are lit ablaze and loosed. On the Duratar coast, the Lightbringer, now just 100 yards from the beach, Proudmoore stands firm as a flaming Orcish boulder soars overhead, smashing into a nearby Alliance ship. Dozens of Alliance infantrymen are massed on the foredeck, ready to hit the beach. Proudmoore readies his sword. There's an eager look in his eye. He's waited a long time for this day, and there's nowhere in the world he would rather be.
Prepare for landing. Advance up the beach by twos. Standard formation.
More artillery fire zips past and splashes down nearby. Up ahead, the beach is fast approaching, and atop the sloping cliffs beyond Orgrimmar looms ominously a fortress. Proudmoore glances behind him at the men he commands. Their faces reminiscent of those men who hit the Normandy beaches on D-Day, terrified and very, very young.
Stand firm, and we will take this ground. For the Alliance!
Back on the Duratar beach, the Lightbringer is jolted as it hits the beach, dredging up sand around its bow. An Alliance commander blows his whistle, and the infantrymen launch themselves over the bow and onto land, charging the beach. Further up the beach, the Orc army charges to meet the Alliance advance. On the Orgrimmar ramparts, Garthok sees the Alliance infantry surging toward Orgrimmar.
Concentrate your fire on the lower beach. Smash that infantry.
The Orc artillerymen dial down the range on their ballistas, reload, and fire. On the lower beach, the Alliance infantry scatters as the Orc boulders smash into their lines, as a squire brings Proudmoore his horse.
Sir, we weren't expecting this much artillery fire. We can't sustain. Then knock out those bloody catapults.
On the Orgrimmar ramparts, a gnomish bomber buzzes overhead, dropping its payload onto an Orcish catapult, which explodes, decimating its crew. As the bomber swings around, another gun crew frantically swivels their turret-mounted ballista to target it and fires, the boulders shearing off the airplane's wing. The plane plummets into a death spiral and crashes into an Orcish munitions dump, exploding in a spectacular fireball. Back on the beach, the two armies are now just yards apart, charging hell-bent for each other. They close the final few yards and clash with a force that shakes the very ground. Irresistible force, meaning immovable object. The front lines hacking and slashing at one another in a bloody fury. Further back, more Alliance ships are making landfall, spilling more Alliance troops onto the beach and into battle. Amphibious landing craft hit the beach, bows opening into ramps from which are deployed tanks of gnomish design. Belching steam from their exhausts as they chug up the beach, dwarf commanders barking orders from the roof hatch. The armored vehicles open fire, plowing great craters out of the earth and sending orcs flying in all directions. The tanks continue to advance until they reach orcish anti-armor obstacles placed strategically along the beach.
Get these bloody obstacles cleared!
Dwarf engineers race forward, armed with satchel charges to clear the obstacles. As they work, dark shadows appear overhead, a familiar shape, more orcish wyvern riders. The wyverns swoop low over the battlefield, raining fire down onto the dwarf engineers. A tank takes a direct hit and explodes into a shower of burning shrapnel. On a hilltop overlooking the Duratar beach, 4 griffins soar across the hillside toward the beach, touching down on the crest of a hill overlooking the battle. Varian, Jaina, Thrall, and Stormpike dismount, their hearts sinking as they look down at the battle raging below.
We're too late.
Varian studies the battlefield with the eye of a general.
There will be no victor here. They'll fight to the last man and destroy each other.
Just as the Legion has planned. Jaina looks to the sky. There's something darkly unnatural about its color, as though it's been slicked with oil. Black clouds cast a gloomy pall over the battlefield below.
It's not over yet. I can still put a stop to this. Are you mad? You and whose army?
A beat, and then they hear a deep, distant rumbling. Barely perceptible at first, but growing louder, stronger as the earth begins to tremble and shake beneath their feet. Everyone turns to see a massive herd of Tauren stampeding over the horizon toward them, a great cloud of dust pluming in their wake, Karen at the head of the army leading them. The Tauren army comes to a halt before Thrall. They're in full battle armor, carrying mighty spears and shields. Karen and Thrall meet and embrace, old brothers reunited.
The Earth Mother be praised. I thought you were dead.
Karen spots the humans and glares at them, suspicious.
There's no time to explain. I must call upon your people now. Ask me for anything, and you shall have it.
On the Duratar beach battlefield, the two armies continue to have at each other. At the center of the fray is Grommash, swinging his war axe furiously, cleaving Alliance troops with bloody abandon. Behind the Alliance lines, Proudmoore sees the carnage Grommash is causing. The war chief's frenzy, firing up the Orcish troops around him and threatening to break through the Alliance lines. Proudmoore draws his sword and rides into battle, the Alliance lines parting before him to let him through. Grommash sees Proudmoore charging toward him at full gallop, raises his axe and prepares to meet him. Bring it on! Proudmoore draws back his sword, and as he closes the distance, the two adversaries roar in a blood-fueled rage. As Proudmoore's horse rides past, they clash weapons in a shower of steel sparks, the force of the impact knocking Grommash to the ground and dismounting Proudmoore. Proudmoore and Grommash get to their feet and face off, circling each other as the battle rages around them, eyes burning with generations of hatred as they close in and fight. Sword against axe in a jaw-dropping flurry of violence, both men experienced expert fighters. They clash weapons again and again, neither one giving any quarter, but it's Grommash who has the advantage in size and strength. As the relentless melee continues, Proudmoore begins to weaken, forced to fight more and more defensively until a final axe blow knocks the sword from his hands. Proudmoore staggers backward off balance. Grommash charges. As Proudmoore scrambles to evade, Grommash raises his axe and is about to deliver the killing blow when the ground shudders underfoot. An earthquake? Grommash glances to the horizon to see the Tauren army stampeding down the hillside toward them.
What?
The Tauren warriors raise their shields and narrow into an arrowhead phalanx as they charge toward the two armies. The Tauren phalanx plows into the melee at the point where the two front lines meet, driving between the two opposing armies like a wedge, using their shields to form an impenetrable wall that splits the two armies apart. On a hilltop overlooking the Duratar beach, Thrall and the others watch below as the Tauren army surges through the center of the battle, creating a buffer zone that prevents the orcs and humans from engaging each other.
Now? No.
Thrall, Varian, Jaina, and Stormpike mount up and ride off down the hillside toward the battlefield. On the Orgrimmar ramparts, Garthok's eyes go wide with disbelief as he recognizes
Thrall? Cease fire! Cease fire!
The orcish ballistic crews stand down. On the lower beach, the Alliance commander looks through his spyglass. In his POV, we see Orgrimmar's artillery cease firing, pan across the battlefield to find our heroes riding down the hillside.
What the hell? All guns, cease fire!
The Alliance fleet's cannons fall silent. On the battlefield front line, as the shelling on both sides comes to an end, an eerie calm settles over the battlefield. The two opposing armies rendered neutral by the Tauren shield wall dividing them. An orc warrior sees Thrall and the others riding toward them, can barely believe what he sees, but it's unmistakable.
Thrall lives.
Another orc spots it, then another, and another. Soon Thrall lives is spreading through the orcish ranks like a virus, orcs straining for a view of their resurrected war chief. The four riders arrive before the assembled mass of orcs and humans, Thrall pacing on his mount as he addresses them.
I am Thrall, son of Duraton, war chief of the Horde, and I command this army to stand down.
The masses of orcs exchange uncertain looks. Thrall motions to Varian and Jaina, who are mounted at his side.
These humans risked their own lives to save mine, to show us that there is a path other than bloodshed for our people.
Grommash breaks through the orcish ranks to address them.
Do not listen to him. He was a slave to the humans before, and now he is once again. He would lead us all into subjugation and dishonor, and I will not follow.
Thrall dismounts to confront Grommash, face to face.
Is that a challenge?
And we're going to cut there because I don't think this is going to end cleanly, but we really want to save the very, very final climax for the last episode. Okay, everybody. Thank you so much for watching, listening, and tuning in. Tomorrow, I should be back to my double recording ways. Until then, we have another episode in the pipe 5x5.